Well, good afternoon. If it's Monday, 3 o'clock, it's Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. Hoping everyone had a great weekend. We're doing our shows, if you will, this spring back on our Facebook company page. So for those of you who are new subscribers to the page, thank you so much. We'll also post these in other social media outlets. For the spring this year, we have a whole new lineup of stuff we're going to offer you with these little chats on Monday afternoons. But we're going to start today with a topic that I think is pretty relevant based on what's going on today in the business community. And with such a need for skilled labor, how do we assess that skilled labor? So today's session is on behavior-based interviewing, because eventually, once you make it through all the resumes and you make it through all the phone calls, there are going to be a group of folks that you're going to want to come in and talk to about the job opening you have. So how do you prepare yourself and your organization for these interviews? So we use behavior-based interviewing as a teaching tool for our managers. We do a class on behavior-based interviewing that we offer clients, a half-a-day program. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But as always, I'm going to go to my notes and give you some tips on how to prepare, how to have this meeting, and what to do post-meeting. So let's get right to it. So what we teach in the classroom, what we suggest to managers and leaders who are about to go on this behavior-based interviewing down this road, if you will. First thing you need to do is update the job description. And I know that sounds kind of old and antiquated, job descriptions, Michael. We don't have job descriptions. Well, you really do, because there got to be some duties and responsibilities that this individual is going to be responsible for when you bring them on board. So we recommend that you update the job description prior to interviewing somebody new for the job, because the job may have changed. We also recommend that at the time of the annual performance review. So as you're doing annual performance reviews, and this is a time of year a lot of people do that, it's a good time to update the job description, because, as I mentioned, jobs change, duties and responsibilities change, requirements of the job change, technology changes. So as jobs change, you should update the job description. But in the behavior-based interviewing process, the job description, the updated job description, is going to be the basis for your interview questions. You're going to ask questions about the duties and responsibilities and the skills and the performance needs of that particular job. So you want to update the job description, update whether there are educational or certification needs for that particular job. You want to have all this ready. The second step is preparing the questions. Now, there are 4 kinds of questions you want to prepare for your candidates who are coming into this position. There are rapport-building questions. You want to make the potential candidate at ease when they're coming into your office. So you want to build some rapport-building questions. How was your ride in? That kind of thing. What happened over the weekend? That kind of stuff. So just kind of rapport-building questions. You want to ask a lot of open-ended questions. So you want to prepare these open-ended questions. Tell me about a time you did this. Tell me about a time you did that. Tell me about a time you ran into a difficulty with a customer and how'd you handle that situation. Tell me about a time you had a difficult time with a teammate and how'd you handle that situation. So you want to ask these open-ended questions about situations that the potential candidate might have gotten in the past that will tell you how their behavior will happen in the future. Because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So try to get those open-ended questions. You want to get some probing questions, some deeper questions. So as you get answers, you want to follow up with some deeper probing questions. And you want to prepare some of those questions based on their first set of open-ended questions. And the last set of questions are the skill-building questions, okay? So what type of skills are needed, especially on the technical side, but even on the performance side. If this person's going to work in teams, this person's going to lead, how can you ask questions about those particular skills? So you want to prepare those questions, obviously, prior to the interview. And you want to have these questions actually written down and prepared. And the reason being is you want to take notes during the interview. Now, you may want to tell the potential candidate that you are taking notes in the interview. They may, not that they're going to freak out or anything, but they may be like, why is this person taking notes? And you just tell them it's a good way for me to capture the data, because I'll be interviewing quite a few candidates for this position. And for you as an interviewer, if you're going to interview 2 people today, 3 people tomorrow, 5 people on Friday, how are you going to be able to judge the results of those interviews if you don't take copious notes each particular person? So make sure you take notes, have these questions written out, and take notes for each particular candidate. As you prepare your questions, you should know that there are questions you can and there are questions you cannot legally ask in the interview process. When we do our training program, we have a whole list of questions you cannot ask during the interview process. If you have any questions about that, you can go to Google, you can go to Department of Labor, but there are questions you cannot ask during the interview process. You need to be aware of that because you want to be brought on charges of discrimination. So definitely make sure you check with legal. But again, when we teach the class, we have a whole list of questions you cannot ask. I do get questions from time to time from clients. What about team interviewing or group interviewing? Well, that can be done. We work with clients that have put together panels, 2 or 3 people, to interview somebody. I tell you it's a bit intimidating for the candidate, but sometimes it's a good way to have HR, maybe the line manager and the division manager all in the room at the same time. It saves time. What we suggest in that process is that the 3 folks who are interviewing or the 4 folks who are interviewing prepare who's going to ask what. So nobody's asking the same question twice, and everybody has a kind of a series of questions they're going to ask. So there's a little more logistics that are done prior to the group interview, but that's something you certainly can do. If the candidate you're seeing is going to see somebody else in the day, again, you want to coordinate questions with the other folks in the interview process. HR, recruiting may have a set of questions they're going to ask. You're going to ask some questions as maybe their direct supervisor. There may be some other questions from a division standpoint as somebody else may ask. Some of our clients actually have team members interview the candidate, and you want to prepare those team members. So again, they're not all asking the same questions. I mean, they may ask similar questions, but you don't want the same question being asked of a candidate by every team member. So you want to kind of, spread it out a little bit, kind of think about through what questions you're going to ask. Okay, so now you've gone through this process. You've prepared the job description is all done. You have your questions, you're ready. You've had interviews. Now you have all this data. Okay, so you've interviewed 5, 6, 7 candidates for this one job. How do you rate? How do you score? How do you weigh which questions are more important than the other questions? What other information do you need to help make your decision? But you have to start thinking through some type of metric that you can start weeding out those that didn't make the cut. And what are you going to do for the last couple folks that really make the first cut? Do you bring them back in for a second interview? Sometimes you can do that. You may want to reevaluate some of the questions you're asking to make it different questions. We also use assessments. We encourage our clients to use assessments in this process. For those who've seen our sessions on the PXT Select, we suggest candidates position that tool either at the beginning of the interview process or at the end of the interview process, just so they can get more cognitive information, behavioral information, and interest information from that particular candidate, and try to compare that to a performance model benchmark, if you will. So that's always part of the process. If you want to use the assessments as part of that process, we encourage you to do so. We have a webinar coming up at the end of this month on the PXT Select and behavior-based interviewing and how do you use the tool in that interview process. I will put a link in the webinar today for you to register for that particular webinar. We think it'll give you more information on how to use the tool. But again, how do you get more information before making a hiring decision? Well, now you've decided. So now you've gone to a place where you actually have to select that person. Okay, then you give them a call. You make the job offer, negotiate salary if you have to, bring them in, make sure you get a good orientation. It's very important that when a new employee comes on board, they feel really comfortable within the organization. So spend a couple of days orientating your new person. Introduce them to other team members they may not have met during the orientation process or during the interview process. Make sure they feel comfortable in the organization. Just have them kind of get that sense that they're really part of the team. So as I mentioned earlier, we do this program for clients. We do a half-day training program on this behavior-based interviewing. It's called More Than a Gut Feeling. The video in that program is on its 4th rendition. We get really good feedback from the program that we do. So we have participants talk about behavior-based interviewing. We go through the model. They actually watch some video vignettes of the interviewing, the behavior-based interviewing questions, and then we actually have them practice the behavior-based interviewing. So those are kind of the 3 areas we cover in our training program. Again, I'll throw a link into the comment section here so you can see the course outline, that particular course. Well, I see we're coming up toward the end of our session today. I want to let you know that we got a full slate of sessions this spring. We're going to add some sales and sales training to our talks this year. We're going to go through some more DISC stuff, some more team building stuff, and all kinds of goodies. So keep an eye on your social media, and please join us. And if you're watching this full session, thanks for watching. Again, this is Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.